त्वेष्टिनकाङ्क्षति निर्द्वन्द्वो हि महाबाहो सुखं बन्धात् प्रमुच्यते सांख्ययोगौ पृथक् बालाः प्रवदन्ति न पण्डिताः एकमप्यास्थितः सम्यक् उभयोर्विन्दते फलम् यस्साङ्ख्यैस्प्राप्यते ज्ञानं तद्योगैरपि गम्यते एकं साङ्ख्यं च योगं च यः पश्यति स पश्यति संन्यासस्तु महाबाहो दुःखमाप्तुमयोगतः योगयुक्तो मुनिर्ब्रह्म अधिगच्छति योगयुक्तो विशुद्धात्मा विजितात्मा जितेन्द्रियः सर्वभूतात्मा कुर्वन्नपि न लिप्यते नैव किञ्चित् करोमीति युक्तो मन्येत तत्त्ववित् पश्यन् शृण्वन् श्वसन् जिघ्रन् अश्नन् सच्छन् स्वपन् श्वसन् प्रलपन् विसृजन् गृह्णन् उन्मिषं निमिषं तपि इन्द्रियाणीन्द्रियार्थेषु वर्तन्त इति धारयन् ब्रह्मण्याधाय कर्माणि सङ्गं त्यक्त्वा करोति यः लिप्यतेन स पापेन पद्मपत्रमिवाम्भसा कायेन मनसा बुद्ध्या केवलैरिन्द्रियैरपि योगिनः कर्म कुर्वन्ति सङ्गं त्यक्त्वात्मशुद्धये युक्तः कर्मफलान् त्यक्त्वा शान्तिमाप्नोति नैष्ठिकीम् अयुक्तः कामकारेण फले सक्तो निबध्यते सर्वकर्माणि मनसा सन्न्यस्यास्ते सुखं वशी नवद्वारे पुरे देहि नैव कुर्वन्न कारयन् न कर्तृत्वं न कर्माणि लोकस्य सृजति प्रभुः न कर्मफलसंयोगं स्वभावस्तु निप्रवर्तते एकस्यचित् पापं नैव सुकृतं विभुः अज्ञानेनावृतं ज्ञानं तेन मुह्यन्ति जन्तवः ज्ञानेन तु तदज्ञानं येषां नाश्रितमात्मनः तेषामादित्यवत् ज्ञानं प्रकाशयति तत्परम् तद्बुद्धयस्तदात्मानः तन्निष्ठा तत्परायणः गच्छन्त्य पुनरावृत्तिं ज्ञाननिर्धूतकल्मषाः विद्याविनयसम्पन्ने ब्राह्मणे गविहस्तिनि शुनि चैव श्वपाके च पंडिताः समदर्शिनः इहैव तैर्जितः सर्गः येषां साम्ये स्थितं मनः निर्दोषं हि परमं ब्रह्म तस्मात् ब्रह्मणि ते स्थिताः क्षेत्प्रियं प्राप्य नो द्विजेत्प्राप्य चाप्रियं स्थिरबुद्धिमसम्मूढः तस्मात् ब्रह्मणि स्थितः बाह्यस्पर्शेष्वसक्तात्मा विन्दत्यात्मनि यः सुखं स ब्रह्मयोगयुक्तात्मा सुखं क्षमश्नुते ये हि संस्पर्शजा भोगाः दुःखयोनय एव ते आद्यन्तवन्तः कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुधः शक्नोति हैव यः सोढुं प्राक्शरीरविमोक्षणात् कामक्रोधोद्भवं वेगं स मुक्तः स सुखी नरः योऽन्तः सुखन्तरारामः स स्फूर्तिरेव च स योगी ब्रह्मनिर्वाणम् भूतोऽपि गच्छति लभते ब्रह्मनिर्वाणम् ऋषयः क्षीणकल्मषाः छिन्नद्वैधा यथात्मानम् सर्वभूतहिते रताः कामं क्रोधवियुक्तानां यतीन्द्रां यत्नचेतसाम् अविभो ब्रह्मनिर्वाणं वर्तते विदितात्मनाम् स्पर्शान् बहिर्बाह्यान् चक्षुश्चैवान्तरे भ्रुवोः प्राणापानौ समौ कृत्वा नासाभ्यन्तरचारिणौ यतेन्द्रियमनो बुद्धिः मुनिर्मोक्षपरायणः विगतेच्छाभयक्रोधः मुक्त एव सः भोक्तारं यज्ञतपसां सर्वलोकमहेश्वरं सुहृतः सर्वभूतानां शान्ताशां शान्तिं पृच्छति। ॐ तत्सत् इति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासूपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे ब्रह्मसंन्यासयोगो नाम पञ्चमोऽध्यायः। ॐ श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। Summary of the 5th chapter. As we saw, it begins with Arjuna's confusion about sannyasa as a lifestyle and the pursuit of knowledge. He equates the two and therefore his confusion, and so the expression of the confusion and the resolution of the confusion is accomplished from verses 1 to 6. Verses 7 to 12 talk about the jnani. What is the difference between a karma yogi and a jnani? So what is this jnani is talked about that, especially the topic of akartritvam, verses 7 to 12. What is non-doership? Verses 13 to 21 are the lakshana of the jnani. Lakshana means characteristics of how a jnani behaves in the everyday life. What do they, how do they negotiate with all the things around them? What kind of values do they have? And like renunciation and not going after raga, dvesha, all these things. That is from verses 13 to 21. And then 22 to 24, 22, 23 and 24 are in these verses is given some advice on how to get to the place of non-doership, how to practice that what is taught by the how to practice that which is the lakshana of the jnani as a sadhana in the daily life. And basically this is done through avoiding the raga dvesha based pursuits and instead having vairagya. How to have this vairagya, etc. is given in 22, 23, 24. We can see that as we are approaching the end of the chapter, there is more of an internal pull, a withdrawal, so to speak, because from verses 1 to 5, 1 to the middle of chapter 5, we are having a lot of discussion of karma yoga, and that will continue because that's where most people are. And interspersed with Atmajnanam, what is Atmajnanam and how does a jnani lead their life, that also is talked about a lot, as we have seen. We have already had 2 sections on jnani lakshana. First section where it comes? Chapter 2, towards the end of chapter 2. Now in the middle of chapter 5 also is there, but verses 22, 23, 24 make it easy for even somebody who is a jnani wannabe, a wannabe jnani also. How can I orient my life if I am wanting to be a jnani? How to orient my life in such a way that I am with the program, and how to not pursue the pulls of my prejudices and the preferences. How to overcome the prejudices and preferences. Very nice verse. Shaknoti yaha ihaiva sodhum prak sharira vimokshanat. And the prejudices and preferences, dvesha and raga, why does one follow? Almost without wanting to follow, one follows because it has become a habit and it exerts a force. Dvesha exerts a force and makes one act. Raga exerts a force and also makes one act in undesirable ways. And so therefore, it's not so much the things that one has to avoid, but the raga dvesha cannot be avoided. But what can we do with them? We can tame them, we can master them, we can rise above them, we can suspend them. Those are some of the ways in which we win over the raga dvesha, so that every single activity is not based on what I need to avoid and what I need to approach, what I should get and what I should let go, what I should get and what I should let go of. This is usually the motive for everybody. And in fact, in the Kathopanishad it is said, Nakaschit, the Jnani Lakshana there is given as Nakaschit Gopaitum Ichhati. The one who does not try to protect anything. There is nothing to protect for the Jnani. Not even notions, not even desires, not even desirable things, undesirable things. It's all just, one is there without protection. So that is a very beautiful thing there in the Kathopanishad. So now how to overcome the force of the ragadveshas. The force is the pressure. How to be strong enough not to come under the pressure. Now you see from the, it's becoming all very real. It's becoming a interesting and a real psychological issue when we start talking of the pressures created by ragadveshas. When we talk about the pressure, it becomes a psychological issue. When it's a psychological issue, going inward is important for resolving it, because it's no longer an external issue. The person who externalizes all the problems is still, what is that called? Balaha, children. Again the Kathopanishad says that. Nasamparayah pratibhati balam pramadyantam vittamohena moodham. And there, samparaya means the future, but the future not in as in tomorrow or day after, but my actions and their consequences in the future. Such people are not able to see. Why? Because they are so busy following the raga dveshas, they are not able to see that at all. And they are not able to see that, so they remain on the shallow surface of just fulfilling all the things that they want to fulfill, and then whatever they want to get out of, they want to get out of, and they become a slave to the ragadveshas. But if we want to interrupt this, a little bit of going inward is not only important, but very much desirable. Very much desirable to go inward, because now I have stopped blaming the world for the problems. Oh, but I haven't. Okay, stop. Okay, yeah. Because almost 1/3 of the Gita we are finishing, and here the pull is towards oneself more and more. It's very easy to blame the external world. It's very easy to say, this one is the problem. We have become so innovative that we will even say, such and such a person is stopping me from the pursuit of Vedanta. How are they stopping you? Well, they are looking at me a certain way and I don't like how they look at me, so therefore I am going to stop the pursuit of Vedanta. So like this, there is a predilection, there is a kind of a immature, it shows a certain kind of an immaturity where one externalizes their problems. So that is not going to lead us to self-growth, because that's what children do. This one beat me up, that one took away my toys, this one took away my tiffin box, my lunch box. And so like this is how it is. They're two small children, who are in nursery, kindergarten, this is how they behave. And then afterwards we understand that as one grows up, if one grows up, one understands that there is a certain accountability. My actions, yes, I have made some choices, I am making some choices, but there are consequences, there is accountability. And that accountability, may not be to a person or whatever, but even as a person, I am accountable for my choices. There are consequences. And so the one who understands that is a mature person, and still, despite that, if the ragadveshas have kept one strongly in their hold, then it's time to withdraw and go within. Generally, who do we think of withdrawing and going within? Sannyasi. Correct? Sannyasis are there who withdraw, go within. But here, this whole section is the whole Shastra is for who? Is it for a sannyasi? No, it is for Arjuna, who is very much not a sannyasi. And in fact, even though he wanted to be a sannyasi, what did Lord Krishna make sure? Lord Krishna made sure that he was not going anywhere near sannyasa. Why? Because there is some maturity to be gained. And so, sannyasa is not conducive. this is the verses 22 to 24, therefore, are very important not only for this content, but also because they give an important sangati, a segue to the chapter 6. Because chapter 6 is called what? What is the name of chapter 6? Dhyana Yoga. The topic of meditation. Yoga here means topic. So the meditation, suddenly you can't sit down to meditate. There is a process. There is a process. And so the process has to do with an inner resolution of all those things, the raga dveshas that are jumping around in the non-meditative state. The raga dveshas are jumping around and then putting a force, forcing one to break the law, go against dharma, beat up somebody, abuse somebody, all these things. And so therefore, this inward pull is there for everybody, but then when we recognize it, it is a moment of auspiciousness. And through this going inward only, many things are resolved. And so 24, what did I say? 22, 23, 24. Are the is that very important segue from chapter 5 to 6. One of the segues, another one will come a little later. So then 22, 23, 24, 25 and 26 are the phalam, because immediately if the phalam is not given, if what happens if I do this right thing is not given, then the human being loses interest very quickly. Because everybody is phala oriented. Phala oriented means what? Everybody wants to know what will happen if I do this, and what will happen if I don't do this. And immediately if that is not talked about, then the person becomes depressed and hopeless. And so this is the phalam. And then the rest of the verses, except for the last one, 27, 28, introduce us to dhyana yoga, how to sit, what to do, all these things we have seen. And the last one says that whether it's a sadhana that is karma yoga, or whether it's a sadhana which is meditation, all the fruits of that go to whom? Bhagavan. Who is this Bhagavan? An extension of you. That is who it is. So that it's a reminder to not get caught up as the doer or the meditator even. So this concludes the 5th chapter. Now the 6th chapter, as we have seen, is Dhyana Yoga, and then unlike chapter 4, which has many different topics, chapter 5 chapter 5 and 6 have what? They are more or less the same topic. Chapter 6 also more or less, you can sit here, come. Chapter 5 and 6 are more or less the same things. You can also come. More or less the same theme is followed throughout. Chapter 6 is also like that, just like chapter 5. Discrete topics are not there. More or less there is a kind of a uniformity of how the topic unfolds. So chapter 6 is what? How to meditate, what are the fruits of meditation, etc., etc. But meditation is not singled out in chapter 6. We have to see this very beautifully. There is the meditation is presented as a continuity of the sadhana for Atmajnanam, indirect sadhanas, mind you, indirect means of Atmajnanam, meditation, yoga and karma yoga, yogasana, practice of yogasana, karma yoga, all this is what? All this is in a continuum. Everything is there together. It's just very beautiful. If meditation was just highlighted as a sadhana, then one can easily forget karma yoga is also a sadhana. And both of them are what? Indirect sadhanas for the mind to settle down so that one can pursue this knowledge. In fact, yogasana is also like that. So many hours of yoga you do so that you can sit down and listen. That's really what its purpose is. That's the purpose. So that one is limber and one can sit and listen without some ache here, some pain there, and distracting one from the Shravanam. Yogasana is for Shravanam. And then what is Karma Yoga? For the sake of Shravanam. And what is Dhyana Yoga for? For the sake of Shravanam. For the sake of being able to pursue this knowledge. So in a very beautiful twist, the chapter on Sannyasa Yoga ends with instruction on meditation, and then the chapter on the Dhyana Yoga on meditation begins with actually a discussion of Karma Yoga, because it's all in continuum. So let us chant. Again, Arjuna doesn't ask a question, but there's a very beautiful continuity between 5 and 6. So, very interestingly, it begins with Karma Yoga. अथ षष्ठोऽध्यायः श्रीभगवानुवाच अनाश्रितः कर्मफलम् कार्यं कर्म करोति यः स सन्न्यासी च योगी च न निरग्निर्न चाक्रियः यं सन्न्यासमिति प्राहुः योगं तं विद्धि पाण्डव न ह्यसन्न्यस्तसङ्कल्पः योगी भवति कश्चन. Beautiful opening. So it starts with anashritah karma phalam karyam karma karoti yaha. The one who is now adept, with practice of course, one who is adept at doing karma without taking recourse or without taking ashraya. Ashraya means going under the refuge of what? Karma phala. So one is not a karma phala holic. One is not completely attached to the karma yoga, to the fruits of action, and is able to do the action squarely for one's own growth. That is why one engages in action, not for the sake of the fruits of action. The only fruit I want is self-growth. How does self-growth happen? Because when you give up the results of action, there is disappointment, there is disillusionment, there is disenchantment, and then all those are processed. And when they are processed, those hurts are processed, then what happens? One is free. There is a relative free, a person who is ready for this knowledge. So, karyam karma karoti yaha, such a person who has mastered karma yoga is the real sannyasi, Arjuna says, is the real sannyasi. Why? Not just the sannyasi who does not light the fires. Sannyasi is called niragnihi because they don't do fire rituals. Why don't they do fire rituals? Because there are two kinds of fire rituals. The first fire ritual is for Nitya karma, meaning daily Agnihotra, etc., etc. The duties are dropped, that's why they don't do the ritual. Second kind of fire ritual is Kamya karma. I want this, I want that, and since the sannyasis don't want that, they don't do that. They are called Niragnihi and Akriyaha. Akriyaha means they have mastered the knowledge that they are beyond doership. Through knowledge they understand I am not the doer. Of course, they will be eating regularly, but still they are non-doers. And they will be going places, but still they are non-doers. Why? This non-doership, as we have seen, is a cognitive part of the cognitive growth. So therefore, even though these karma yogis, even though they may be continuing to do rituals and continuing to do actions, they are still like sannyasis. You must see them to be just like sannyasis, it says. And then that is verse number 1. Verse number 2 says that whatever be your penchant for sannyasa Arjuna loves sannyasa. Why? He doesn't have to fight. Sit under a tree and then grow a beard so that nobody recognizes him. And then just be there and then go away from this terrible, terrible war. Again, he is not aware of the consequences of this action. How it will demoralize the whole army, he has no idea, none at all. But still he wants to go sit under a tree. So he says, Yam sannyasam iti prahuhu, which the people talk of as sannyasa. For you, what is that? Karma yoga only. You first gain the renunciation through karma yoga, by renouncing the fruits of action, which are the hardest thing to renounce. It's easy to renounce regular clothes and then what? Wear orange clothes. No problem. Amazon.com is ready. Okay, and so just order a few things and then wear orange clothes and then what? Business as usual. Inside, what? The inside is still full, all the colors are present in the form of kama, one color, krodha, another color, raga, dvesha, mada, moha, matsarya, all these things are there, but still one is an outer sannyasi. Here, first become an inner sannyasi, and then doesn't matter what you wear outwards. And in fact, in the tradition, there are people who don't wear anything at all. They are called Naga Babas. You can see them in Kumbh Mela. They say, what's the point of wearing anything? And so that requires a lot of bravery. But anyhow, the point is inner renunciation has to come before outer lifestyle of renunciation. You cannot confuse the lifestyle of renunciation for the inner work that needs to be done. This is a theme that will keep repeating itself, because Lord Krishna wants to din it not only in Arjuna's head but in all our heads. So that's why it's a theme that will repeat itself. Yam sannyasam iti prahuhu tam yogam iti vidhi Pandava. And then very important second line of the verse, asankalpa sanyasta asanyasta sankalpaha na kadachit yogi bhavati. So you cannot become, first you cannot become a sannyasi without becoming a karma yogi, line number 1. Line number 2 says that in fact to be a karma yogi, what do you have to do? Become a sannyasi internally. Very nice. There's a nice exchange happening. Asanyasta sankalpaha means opposite of sanyasta sankalpaha. Sankalpa means intentions before doing the action. So it's like a tautology. It's a very funny thing. It's like that story, an ancient story, where the one fellow was little off. The village simpleton. Okay. Little off. He used to say everything that was on his mind, and funny ways he used to behave. And then he was taken to the Vaidya. Vaidya come astrologer. The Vaidya already knew, Vaidya means doctor. The ancient doctor also knew a little bit of astrology, dabbled in everything. And what does the Vaidya say? Oh, he'll be okay, just get him married. Get him married, the poor woman who has to deal with him. But anyhow, maybe that was the thing. Get him married. Maybe they thought he was lonely and that's why he was doing this, and some companionship will make him all right. That was the thing. But then the word had spread. that this fellow, little gadbad. Gadbad means little funny thing is there. How do you translate gadbad?
Weird.
Gadbad is not weird. Gadbad means there is some problem here. He is weird, no doubt, but gadbad means there is something fishy here. Some funny thing is going on. Some problem is here. Everybody knew. All the marriage brokers knew. Everyone knew. So, if this, in that village he could not find a single girl, no one would even come near their house with a marriage alliance. So they had to cast the net wider, go to the next village and the next village. And there also the marriage brokers were forbidden from saying anything bad. So they would say, a fantastic person. How is this boy? You know, an alliance has come for our daughters. If somebody said, approach the broker would say, fantastic family, wonderful boy, but, oh, time to leave, I have to catch something. Wait, what do you mean by but? No, nothing. Really excellent family, but, and then again they would go off. And so nobody would come for a marriage alliance for this fellow. So then, what is the catch 22? Until he gets married, the madness will not leave, and until the madness leaves, the marriage will not take place. So here also a similar thing, very beautiful though, but very clear. It's not exactly a catch 22, it's wisdom. So what is this? Yam sannyasam iti prahuhu. That which is called sannyasa is really karma yoga. Oh, okay. That which is called sannyasa is what? Karma yoga. Okay, then what is karma yoga? Sannyasa. Very interesting. But if we look at it closely, it's a very wise verse. So that which we call sannyasa is actually karma yoga. Why? Because that which we call karma yoga is actually sannyasa. How? Because in both those we find renunciation. Karma yoga, we find renunciation of the intention for the action and for the fruits thereof. And in sannyasa, we find renunciation of the action itself, because the renunciation of the fruits thereof has already been mastered as a karma yogi. That person has mastered. So now what do we see in sannyasa? In sannyasa, we see that the person is renouncing action because the person has self-knowledge and the person has been an adept karma yogi, and therefore what? So therefore there is no reason to engage in action at all. Again we see a strong withdrawal, which is the withdrawal unto oneself, which is a wonderful, what is that called? A sadhana for going within. And without going within, one cannot interrogate. One cannot process the hurts from before, from early childhood hurts, which is going to be talked about, and one cannot grow. One cannot grow as a person without spending some time alone. Constantly throughout the day, if one is with people all the time, doing as they say, or making them do as you say, or going here, going there, constantly if you are with people, there is no time to stand and just being. But that doesn't come easily. In fact, even 5 minutes if you sit alone, what happens? Oh, too much. All kinds of terrible thoughts are coming. All kinds of fears are coming. Oh, what is that work I have to do? Be comfortable with who I am. Understand the mithyatvam of the mind and free myself from the hold of the mind. And this, no matter whether you go to the therapist or whether you go to a Swami, whoever you go to, they can just indicate and tell you what to do, but they cannot free you. Who has to do that? Yourself. You yourself have to do that. So, then the next verse we are going to see is five and six. Uddharedatmanatmanam natmanam avasadayet atmaiva hyatmano bandhuhu atmaiva ripuratmanah bandhuratmatmanastasya yenatmaivatmana jitah anatmanastu shatrutve vartetatmaiva shatruvat. So, these two are very controversial verses because they are badly translated. In one of the books, what is the translation? Read the translation of the fifth one.
One should live oneself by one's own efforts and should not degrade oneself. For one's own self is one's friend and one's own self is one's friend.
So, sometimes, actually that's not too bad, but usually it says, lift the self by the self. Who is the one who is lifting? And who is the one who is lifted? Very difficult, very difficult. Uddharet means urdhvam haret. Correct translation, lift. Lift means what? That there is at the base core of every being a terrible fear and insecurity. That is what, from this well of insecurity, from this well of fear, is what the lifting has to be done. And one is not alone. Shastra is there, Guru is there. But here what is being talked about, lift yourself up by yourself, means what? That the work of interrogating and making peace with whatever is within oneself has to be embarked upon through one's own sankalpa, intentions. Through one's own intention, this journey, this inner journey has to be embarked upon. And so therefore, uddhared atmana atmanam. Here atma doesn't mean atma, it means antahkarana. So the first uddharet atmana, that first atmana by oneself means by the resolve. The ahankara which has now identified with the resolve, uddharet. May one get oneself out of this feeling that one is unworthy. Because if you don't get out of that feeling, when you sit down, what will happen? The unworthiness will rise. You won't rise above the unworthiness. The unworthiness will rise. And then instead of saying Om Namah Shivaya, Om insecure Oham, this is what the mantra will change. The mantra will change into self-loathe Aham, and what else? Self-judgmental Oham. All these things will become the mantra. Instead of asangoham, Om Namah Shivaya, those are not the mantras of meditation and contemplation. The mantra just rehearses the pain and sorrow. The mantra in the form of the rehearsal of the pain and sorrow alone will take place if this step of preparing oneself to meditate is not adequately done. Therefore, these two verses talk about a very important preparation for meditation. And so, uddhared atmana atmanam. The second atma, atmanam, means what is this self? This self is the one that is somewhere sitting in the past. This is again not atma as we understand it. Satyam jnanam anantam, does it need to be lifted up? No. Does it lift up anybody? No, because it is akarta. So it's not Satchidananda, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Atma. What is this here? It is oneself alone as I understand one myself to be an individual endowed with a body, mind, sense complex and an ahankara, I notion. So that is what is in the doldrums. And so it's almost like, see, if I am in the doldrums, if I am feeling upset, if I am feeling angry at the world, at myself, and if I am having self-loath, self-judgment, self-criticism, how can I lift myself up? It seems contradictory. How to lift myself up when I am the problem? How to do that? It doesn't seem very easy. But here it says that's the only way to do it. It's almost like there has to be an inner split, so to speak, not really. I'm not saying that people should become split. No. It's as though there should be some kind of a separation. First, I have to practice the witnessing without judgment and with kindness the difficulties that lie within. There are lots of difficulties that lie within. First of all, there is self-judgment. I do not like myself. That is the refrain. The chorus of anything is I hate myself. There is self-loath. There is self-judgment. There is fear. There is anxiety. There is insecurity. And as though this was not enough, naturally the mind goes to other people. How come they don't have this? First problem, I have this. Second problem, how come they are exempt from this? Because there is some kind of a morbid satisfaction in knowing that everybody is sinking together. But it's terrible, we are all sinking, doesn't matter, at least we are together. Some strange kind of a camaraderie here. So therefore here, the one that is afflicted and affected by the world, by one's parentage, by one's childhood, by one's being in a certain way, by one's conditioning, so to speak, is what is the inner child. That's really what it is the inner child. And who should rescue this inner child? It's a very, very important question. In fact, one feels like giving it to somebody else. Here, babysit this for me. And when somebody who loves you is ready to babysit and take care of the inner child, aha, wonderful feeling. But then, what happens to this inner child? This inner child invokes their inner child. Are you ready? And they have 5 or 6 of them. Okay, are you ready to babysit all their inner children? Say no, so we can move on. I can't believe people are entertaining the idea. Oh, am I ready? Let's see. No. Therefore, you have to take care of your own baby. What do you mean by my own baby? I don't even have children. Here, that split. One person is the adult and the other one is truncated. Somehow there was failure to grow. Why? Because of the trauma, got stuck in the trauma, got stuck in the fear, got stuck in the self-loath, got stuck in the underconfidence, got stuck in some misery or the other, some loss or the other it was not able to come out of. And that one is still stuck right now. It is a warehouse. Why is it called a warehouse? The unconscious mind is called the warehouse. Why is it called warehouse? Because you don't know where it is. It's the warehouse of pain and sorrow from which all emotions come and take you by surprise. So much so that people come and say, I didn't know why I got so angry. The person just asked something and then I just yelled at them. I had no control. I had no way of just understanding what just happened in this interaction. That means what? One doesn't know that there is this anger. One doesn't know that there is this force of feeling. How long are we going to be like Navagrahas? Do you know Navagrahas, the 9 planets? They should not face each other. So too, this young inner self, which has not grown fully, and the adult who is now in charge of making decisions, who has the buddhi, who has the mind, who has the wherewithal, who has the education, everything. That is the only one that can take care of this one that remained behind. Therefore, uddhared atmana atmanam uddhared. Lift yourself up through this process of being able to first look at this inner child with compassion. Because it's not your fault what happened. How can it be your fault? You were so small. Somebody blamed, somebody did something, it's not your fault. That something happened is not your fault, but you are the one who has to take responsibility for whatever happened. Oh no, if it's them, somebody hurt me, they have to take responsibility. You can't say that. They may not even be in your life, whoever they were. And even if they are in your life, they are not going to take responsibility. The accountability and responsibility has to come here. Why? Because it's only when I stop blaming the world and stop blaming myself can any kind of meaningful journey of growth commence. That is when the journey of self-growth commences. Otherwise one is just like a truncated small child. It's the Jnani, they say in the Brahma Sutra, is childlike. But here we are not talking of childlike, innocent and spontaneous. But here we are talking of what? Childish. That's totally different. Totally different from being childlike. So here, this inner child, which is what? Which represents, this is the modern language, but which represents the storehouse of pain and sorrow, is the one that is coming in the way of both karma yoga and what? Dhyana yoga. But in order to resolve this, what one has to do is to reparent this child. You have to become the parent. You can't give this child away for somebody else to babysit. You can't give this to the significant other to babysit, because the significant other will then lose the word significant and become other. That's all that will happen. Yeah. They will run away. Nobody wants to deal with the inner brats. Just like you don't want to deal with their inner children, they don't also want to deal with your inner children. No, I'll make new friends. How long will you run? How long will you make new friends? There is a limit to that. No, there are 8 billion people in the world. I will never run out of new people. Then what will I say? Ayushman Bhava. Live long. That's all I can say. Nothing else can be said. So therefore, this storehouse of pain and sorrow and all the other emotions that one feels, loneliness, fear, anger, insecurity, and here what is highlighted in these 2 verses is under self-confidence. Underconfidence. I can't do this, I can't manage this, I really, other people can do it, but I shouldn't even start because I can't complete it, I can't have it, I won't do it, I'll not do a good job, I know. And that underconfidence, as though that was not enough, is compensated, as it were, overcompensated by perfectionism. It's enhanced by perfectionism. It's like after the dish is done, you put some garam masala, to enhance the taste. So this underconfidence on one hand and perfectionism on the other hand are the 2 killers of spiritual growth, emotional maturity. They just murder any chance for emotional maturity, so they are taken care of. How it's going to be described, very beautiful. So it says that uddharet atmana atmanam. You please take care of yourself by yourself, and then what? Na atmanam avasadayet. This second pada is very important. How do you do this? By not putting yourself down. Don't put yourself down. Very nice advice by Lord Krishna. This underconfidence is handled how? You lift yourself up. How? Very easy, by not putting yourself down. Usually, how does the person react? Like, oh, I'm not good enough and I'm an idiot. Why didn't I do the right thing? Why did I do the wrong thing? How many times have I to do this? There is so much guilt, so much pain, so much victimization. Victimization is another way of putting oneself down. Constantly being a victim. I am not having this, I am not having that, I am not doing this. And then what? If you go to the doctor like this, even whether it's a mental health doctor or whether it's a physical health doctor, even the physicians have started to prescribe, keep a gratitude journal. See all the things that are going well in the life. See despite everything in life is a great blessing. Allow yourself to see that. At least note down 3 to 5 things every day at the end of the day that have gone well, so you don't go into this doldrum again. One person was advised as such. And then the person complained, I can't keep this journal, I don't have the time, and I don't really want to, and I don't know how. Very difficult. So therefore what? Na atmanam avasadayet. Make it a point to change the language. Whether the language is a spoken language or whether the language is an inner language of talking to yourself. When you find yourself in the midst of putting yourself down, gently change that without judgment. Just like when the parents are taking the children for a walk. And what do the children do? They just stray onto the road where the traffic is. And what do the parents do? They have to bring the child back. No, you can't go out there. We have to remain here. There could be traffic on the road. A few more steps one walks. The family walks. And then the children again stray on the road. And the parents have to gently bring them back. The same thing has to be done by the inner adult to this language of self-deprecation, which has become a terrible habit. Self-deprecation, victimization, fear, putting oneself down all the time. No, I am Brahman. How can anything be wrong with me? Even if you don't know nice things to say to yourself, just say I am Brahman, it's enough. So I am Brahman, I am the limitless Brahman, which is the nature of joy. So this is not true. You keep calling the bluff. And so that is a very important way. And then 2 other things are also said. Atma eva atmanaha bandhuhu. Atma eva ripuhu atmanaha. So if this is done, if one is successful in doing this, Atma is one's own best friend. Because you yourself know what you need. You know what you need. You know where you need to go. You know how you need to grow. So you are your best advocate. And it's interesting. The word that is used is bandhu, not mitram. There are many words for friend. Not mitram, not sakha, but bandhu. And if you examine the word bandhu, what is there? Bandh. What is bandh? Tied. Bound. That's what it is said. Bandhus means friends. Kind of friends that bind. So if you have other bandhus than the Atma, then what? You go to them for help and you find yourself even more tangled up than before. First you were embroiled in your own life, and then you thought you met a like-minded person who had like-minded interests and yes, like-minded problems also. And then what? You got embroiled. Not only now, first you were embroiled in your own problems, and then what? You are embroiled in their problems also. No surprise. This is a no-brainer. So now you have many, many more problems than you began with. And the bandhu is the one who puts a lasso on you, an invisible lasso of accountability. Instead of being accountable to yourself, you have to be accountable to them. I love you so much. Therefore what? Sit down. What is the connection between I love you, therefore sit down? What kind of a therefore is it? But that's how it is. I care about you a lot, therefore sit down. And this is not love, this is manipulation. So this is creating some kind of a web of obligations, a web of dysfunctionality, and a web of you scratch my back, therefore I will scratch your back, and since I scratched your back, you have to also scratch the relative's back. My relative's back you have to scratch. This is where one finds oneself. But if you make Atma your Bandhu here, Atma means the grown-up. The inner adult becomes the Bandhu. It will never tie anything down. Because the other Bandhus you cannot rely on. Here today, gone tomorrow. You call them, they are not available sometimes. You call them and then you say, oh, I need some space from you. Why? Just because. They won't even tell the reason. And now you have to worry about not only yourself, but why you lost their favor. So for all these reasons, it is important to go within. Yes, take the help of whatever one needs. Help of therapist, etc. That is not what is talked about here. But it is relying on the society which is plagued with the same kind of underconfidence, same kind of problems, etc. Then it is very, very difficult to do that. Therefore, this holy journey of going within has to be accomplished by oneself. You have to start it by yourself and accomplish it by yourself. And of course, there's always a doubting Thomas. What does the doubter say? Doubter says, if I don't do this, what will happen? Atmaiva ripuhu atmanaha. So, if this inner journey is not accomplished, the split will grow wider to the extent that one has so much self-loath that one feels inimical to oneself. That is a travesty. One can be one's best friend, but instead if one starts feeling inimical to oneself, then what is the use? Where is the journey? How to study Vedanta, which says you are perfect? How to assimilate that? You'll feel like running away. You won't even be able to sit unless this work is at least commenced. Even if it's not fully accomplished, at least one is in the process of this, one is committed to the growth. That is what has to be made into a priority. This same, before we go to the next verse, I should mention that this same sentiment is there in the Mandukya Karika also. Mandukya Upanishad has a series of 4 chapters of commentary in verse which is called Karika. And there the grand guru of Adi Shankara, whose name was Gaudapadacharya, writes a wonderful commentary. And then he talks about the 2 problems in meditation. While talking about meditation only, he says, first is laya. What is the first problem in meditation? Nirvikalpa Samadhi comes. Oh, but that's a good thing. Yes, but it is accompanied by snoring. So, that means what? You start to meditate and then sleep comes. Laye sambodhayet chittam. So, when laya comes, when sleep comes, that's the first pratibandha, sleep. When sleep comes, bring back yourself. Oh, but I don't know when I'm falling asleep, but afterwards you know, when you just woke up, you know, oh, I fell asleep for 5 whole minutes, you know that. That time, get up, splash some water, whatever it is, takes to remain awake, please do that. And then the second problem in meditation is called vikshepa, distraction. Laya, first problem, sleep, and the other problem is what? Vikshepa, distraction. And this we all know, we are very familiar with it. First thought, Om Namah Shivaya. Second thought, Om Namah Shivaya. Third thought, Om Namah Shivaya. Fourth thought, is anything happening? Then you have to bring the mind back. You have to bring the mind back, you have to bring the mind back, you have to bring the mind back. Repeatedly. And in fact, you can't complain that I have to keep bringing the mind back. The mind is like that. In fact, if you didn't have to bring the mind back, it would not be called meditation. It is samadhi. Meditation is where you keep bringing it back. So, laye sambho yudhaye chittam vikshiptam cha shamayet punaha. Resolve the distraction punaha, punaha repeatedly. And then what he says should be written in gold. Sakashayam vijaniyat. Know the mind to be along with the sludge. There is a sludge in the mind. That's what he calls it. Kashaya. Kashaya means a very viscose, sludgy, thick substance. Kashaya. Know the mind to be with its sludge, the unconscious mind. Sampraptva na vichalayet. In the meditation, difficult issues will come up. Memories will come up. Apasmara will come up. Who is apasmara? The inner child on whose body, who is under Dakshinamurti's feet. All this symbolism is very interesting. This inner child which is under the foot of Lord Dakshinamurti, that is, it looks like a child, but it is a grown-up. It is a truncated, dwarf-like figure. And then it is offensive and defensive. So then this is what is called inner child, and sampraptva na vichalayet. Difficult memories will come, difficult situations may arise in the process of meditation. What to do? Leave that behind, because this is not the time to do inner child work. What have you sat down to do? Meditation. When you sit down to do inner child work, that's a different thing. But here, that becomes a distraction, so let it just rest. Let it just be in the form of a thought. Don't keep on dwelling upon it. And then in meditation, not only sad and difficult thoughts, but happy thoughts also come. Happy thoughts come. How wonderful this is, how nice it was. Yesterday we had a nice party, day before yesterday this happened, that happened, so many thoughts will come. Na swadayet rasam tatra. Rasam means the enjoyment. Na aswadayet. Don't keep on dwelling in that enjoyment when happy memories bubble up. Don't keep on dwelling in the sorrow when difficult memories bubble up. Na swadayet rasam tatra nissango pragyaya bhavet. Pragyaya, with the wisdom that I am meditating, nissangaha bhavet. May one be uninvolved in whatever is happening at the level of the chittam, the mind, the unconscious. Very beautiful it is. All this, we just say, oh, the father of psychology, Carl Jung, Sigmund Freud, all these things, we just call them. Why? Because nobody knew, nobody could understand the depths of these things. And people who did not care to have Gaudapadacharya reinstated instead as the father of not just modern but ancient psychology. We didn't care for all those epithets, because what we want is the self-knowledge. Doesn't matter how we get it. It's just very beautiful. And so this is what has to be, this is what even in the ancient commentary of the Mandukya Upanishad also iterates these thoughts. Then the sixth one, it says, yenaiva atmana jitah, yena atmaiva atmana jitah, yena atma atmana jitah, for whom this who has mastered this split by themselves, what happens? Bandhuhu atma atmanah tasya. Atma tasya bandhuhu atmanah. So for the one who has mastered oneself by oneself, what happens? This self is a friend. One is a friend to oneself. And then anatmanastu shatrutve varteta atmaiva shatruvat. Otherwise, this I remains a mystery. Remains a mystery and remains in fact a difficult thing to integrate. Which I, the one that is split, the one that you yet have to come to know, the fearful one, the tearful one, the underconfident one, and the one that one still needs to get to know is what? Is left, if it's left uninterrogated, then it becomes inimical. It becomes inimical. Because if you leave it uninterrogated, all the pains and sorrows, they grow because they are not being attended to. If they are not being attended to, what happens? They keep growing, they keep festering. And so these are really wonderful verses if we understand them properly in the light of this. Then the phala of this work, what happens when I do this inner work, is given in 8 and 9. Jnana vijnana triptatma kutastho vijitendriyah yukta ityuchyate yogi समलोष्टाश्मकाञ्चनः सुहृन्मित्र उदासीन मध्यस्थद्वेष्य बन्धुषु सुहृन्मित्रारुदासीन मध्यस्थद्वेष्य बन्धुषु साधुष्वपि च पापेषु Samabuddhirvishishyate. These two are the phala. Immediately the phala is given. What happens when I engage in this kind of a work is given very beautifully. So the person whose mind is content. Atma here is not Atma, mind. Whose mind is content in the abidance of jnana and vijnana. What is jnana? Shruti, knowledge of myself as free and whole. What is vijnana? That which has been well assimilated. So kutasthaha. Kutasthaha, and the kutasthaha means the one who is stable, sthira. Stable. Kutastha. Kuta means anvil. Nobody even knows what an anvil is. Now, anvil is, those cobblers. Cobblers, they have some kind of a heavy thing which has many, many protrusions. So if your slipper comes loose or something like that, or one strap comes out, you take it to them, they'll put it on that particular piece and then sew it, put some gum and then sew it and give it back to you. That's called an anvil. Their hands are moving, the slipper is moving, but the anvil is not supposed to move. So, kutavat tishtati iti kutasthaha. The one that remains unchanged like an anvil. Who is that? Vijitendriyaha, the one who has mastered all the senses, who is jnana, vijnana, triptatma, who is content with the knowledge of the self and abides in the knowledge of the self. And then yuktaha iti uchyate. Yuktaha iti uchyate. And then the person who has mastered the sense organs and the organs of action is called yuktaha. Yuktaha iti uchyate yogi. Yogi iti uchyate. Yuktaha means the one who is together. The split has been resolved. For whom the split between the adult and the inner child has been resolved, for whom the split between the doer and the knower has been resolved, such a person is called, has one particular characteristic. What is that? Samadarshanam, seeing Bhagavan everywhere, seeing oneness everywhere. Sama Loshtashma Kanchanaha. Loshta is a clod of earth. Ashma, iron. Kanchana, gold. For such a person, all three are the same. All three are the same. A clod of earth, a small piece of iron, and gold. How? We'll find out tomorrow. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.